I'd like to call to order the regular meeting for June the 3rd. County Board of Commissioners, and recognize Commissioner Williams for our pledge and pledge.
You can stand in your name. Father, we thank you for this opportunity to come together to do the people's business. We thank you for the fact that we live in a nation where we're able to do that and choose our own leaders. I pray that you help us to never take that for granted. Please guide us in everything we do today and protect those in uniform who protect us. And please keep us all safe as we leave this place today. Travel to our we ask these things in your name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we need adjustments, or do I hear approval on the here? Approval, Jim.
Second.
You have a motion and a second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Good. That brings us to our public comment section. And today we have a sign-up sheet that's outside the door. We do have a public hearing scheduled for this afternoon, and it was a separate sign-up sheet for that. So those wishing to provide information to the commissioners signed up on the public comment form. Each speaker is provided 3 minutes. There is a timer on the screen that will be before you that you can keep up with how much longer you have. It is not a Q&A or a town hall type process. It is you're providing information to the commissioners, and if you need to give direction to administration following, we will certainly do that. If you have any documentation that you want to provide to the commissioners, we'd ask that you provide that to our clerk, and she'll make sure that she gets that to us. Having said that, I'm going to start going down the list, and it looks like Bob Fulton is first. If you'll come up and just identify yourself, spread your rest, and feel free to share.
Thank you very much. My name is Robert Fulton. I live at 3898 Timber Stream Drive in Southport. I'd like to address the traffic impact assessment, which you all have been looking at. There was strong public outcry for the planning board to require a TIA for new developments. That would have required a UDO amendment by the Brunswick County Board of Commissioners. Your staff came up with a recommendation as required by you, and the recommendation was accepted, revised, and withdrawn. I've been approached by a number of people and asking the same questions over and over, so I'd like to relay those to you. Why was the recommendation of your professional staff revised to a higher threshold? Why did you all vote to double the recommended rate in the assessment before developers would have to take action to mitigate impact? And have you considered going back to the traffic level criteria proposed in the original recommendation? And then what is the current status of that TIA process? Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. And I think we had staff is supposed to be getting back to us on the TIA, as with other items from the last planning board meeting.
That is correct.
Very good. All right. The next person, Glenn Transom.
Good afternoon. I'm Glenn Phantom from Shalom. I don't know if you guys noticed, but NOAA put out their predicted storms for this year that are coming in. That looks like we're going to be having a busy summer and fall. I don't know if you guys have went and done, but all these new people that are in this area now, if you guys thought about going ahead and getting an evacuation plan in place, because the old one doesn't seem to be able to work. Because I've looked at all the roads, there is no new roads being built. And therefore, having all these extra people on the road is going to be, it's going to create a big safety issue, trying to get people evacuated out of these towns if we have to evacuate. That is a major concern for me because I don't know, just say for instance, if Southport has to be evacuated, coming down 211 to get out to 17, that's gonna take an all-day thing. And with gas station being closed down, these vehicles are not gonna be able to refuel to get anywhere other than the side of the road where they sit there and wait for traffic to move. Another thing I want to put out. All the rezoning that's been done, I come month after month after month here. UDO recommendations get put in, they get picked out, then they get shot down. Developers should not have any say-so whatsoever in the UDO because they are not the ones that are living here. They are not the ones that are going to be here after they're gone. They should have no say-so on whatever is in that UDO. That is a guideline for them to follow if they're going to go ahead and do any development. Any of the amendments that get done to the UDO should be very specific to that area and whether or not this county actually needs a development of any size to increase what is already here. Because right now, I'm not seeing a need for new residential buildings. I see a need for places, things like schools, police substations, fire department substations, hospitals, not urgent cares, but actual hospitals, things of that nature. That's the things that we need to be built with. Also, we need a water treatment plant. We need a water purification plant, a new place to go ahead and have a landfill because that mountain out there keeps growing and growing and it doesn't seem like it's gonna stop. So you guys have to realize this. You guys are working for us. You're not working for the developer. If you guys continue to go ahead and make these amendments, especially the planning board, where they go ahead and they agree with the developers, it's wrong. They are not here for you. We are the ones that are here. You guys are supposed to be helping us out. You guys are supposed to be the ones doing our planning with sustainable growth, not out of control growth. And I will go ahead and speak this over and over again, because you know what? It's a frustrating. It used to take me 16 minutes to get to work. Now it takes me over 30 minutes to get to work. I work overnight, so I leave at 9:30 at night and I come home at 5 o'clock at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the morning, depending if and it takes me the same amount of time because the amount of traffic that's on the road. It never used to be that way 2 years ago. So you guys, please take into effect what is going on with these developments and make sure that the planning board is actually listening to you guys and you guys are working together, because it seems like the planning board, I can go to those meetings too, and nobody wants to work with each other.
Thank you. All right. And do I hear approval of the consent? So moved. I'll say. Motion and second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye? Right.
Kevin, if I can ask staff on one thing. Mr. Manager, what is the date of our Hurricane Expo? When and where is that for the people in the audience who may want to attend? And would things like evacuation routes be addressed at that?
Is, I believe, the 15 or 16.
David's here. David, want to come speak to that?
Yes, sir. The Hurricane Preparedness Expo is set for June 15th here on campus. And there'll be, magnitude of topics there, and discussion about knowing your zone and evacuation routes will be some of the topics that are, presented and available for more information.
Right there, can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Is it true that you guys continually evaluate infrastructure regarding roads as well as emergency preparedness as well as warnings with respect to citizenry and the visitors that are here, as far as things about how people are notified overall, as well as how to work with municipalities to ensure that we get people out in a timely fashion?
Yes, sir. Our goal is to be able to provide that information with a magnitude of different resources, be it social media, the normal media, working with other software, our mass notification system, working with the sheriff's office with their app, but pushing out that information to get it out early and striving to the community to to heed the warnings as they're given out and to assist us and act in a timely fashion as we do a staggered evacuation to ensure that people get out of harm's way and well in advance of storm impact.
So you're working with municipalities as well as having
Yes.
for that in prior to the actual possible time that we would have.
Yes, sir. We meet on a regular basis during an activation like that. And just this past week, we had our internal hurricane conference with all our municipalities and other partners to reinforce that message of working together. And if you remember my talk, and my key word was teamwork, and that's what we're going after.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. All right, so that moves us into presentations in health services, substance use, addiction, and mental health commission update.
Hello, Commissioners. I'm Josh Torvich. I actually get the privilege of introducing the person who's going to share with you the presentation that we put together. I also get the privilege of serving as the chair of the Substance Use and Disorder Commission. And I wanted to read you something that we put together. My job is just to give you an idea of the makeup that we currently have serving on the commission so you can understand the members that participate in this. The dedicated commission is a diverse group of individuals who are passionate about addressing substance use and mental health disorders in our community. Commission chair, that's me, is Josh Torvich, Executive Director of Christian Recovery Centers and also representing District 2. The commission includes Vice Chair Father William Everly, who is a retired minister and Encompass trainer representing District 3, as well as our Secretary Kate Gomes, a licensed therapist representing District 1. Other members include Jocelyn Ott, a pharmacist representing District 5, Jonathan Oliver, a sheriff deputy with the Anchor Initiative, Joni McAdams from the Chief Judge Office overseeing drug court, Megan Wilson, an assistant principal serving on the Board of Education, Jeremy Siemens, director of Coastal Horizons and Treatment Center, and Laura Truman, formerly with the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, both serving as at-large members. She's also going to be your presenter today. So I just want to say thank you all for having the foresight to have us as a group and a think tank. And we hope that we continue to serve you well with new ideas. And I hope you enjoy the presentation.
Great, thank you so much. And thank you for your dedication and interest on this issue. I've been so impressed with all that this county and state has already done to address the opioid epidemic. So we felt it was important to give you an overview of where we stand now. Before I get into the details of these slides, I also want to thank the health staff that supports our commission. We have David Howard, Travis Greer, and Olivia Jarvis. And they come to the monthly Thursday night meetings, and then they do a lot of staffing in between, and we really appreciate their support. Okay, so you've heard who we are. Glimmers of hope. So glimmers of hope is good. The overdose death rates are starting to look like we are turning the corner from those pandemic level highs. However, there are a couple of caveats for this. The data for 2023 is provisional. And in fact, CDC says, hey, it's likely underreported on overdose death rates because it's still provisional. So what I would note is
how many acts that would have been on the report is paper level. Do we know how many?
we don't know.
Thank you.
Sure. So as you can see from 22 to 23, the overdose were on track. This is nationwide to decrease 14%. And then this year, they're on track to decrease 14%. So if those numbers hold, that's very encouraging news. But like I said, they're likely to be underreported. To give you a little bit more of a up close to our county look, these are from our local EMS response calls. And as you can see that we have a rate last year of 28.38 per 10,000 people. So that was 423 calls they went out for overdose response. This year, we're at 128 year to date, but that is looking like the rate is lower, 20.62. So that's quite encouraging. And then I would like to talk about sort of some specific efforts that you all have created and funded and supported in the county and where we stand with those. So with the Anchor Initiative in the Sheriff's Office, what they are reporting to us that so far this year to date, they've had 24 drug overdose calls with 2 overdose fatalities. And just so you know, out of those 47, a little more than half get taken to the hospital. So that gives you some sense of what our hospitals are receiving locally. In 2023, there were 168 overdose calls and 8 drug fatalities. So, and then something not in these 2 slides, it came in a little late, but I wanted to tell you about is the drug treatment court. So the drug treatment court this year to date, 41 people have entered the program. And I have twice now gone to one of the hearings, and I'm just blown away by seeing lives changed there and by the work being done there. So you should be very proud of that. In 2023, 41 people entered and 37 graduated. That's a much higher graduation rate for your drug courts than nationally. So that's another thing to be proud of. One piece of good news is that in 2023, nobody who was in the drug court, those 41 people, died of an overdose. In other words, did not relapse and die. And that compares with 2022 when there were 4 who did. So another little glimmer of hope. The drug treatment court depends on grants to continue, and they just got in October another 5-year grant. And that's good because they had higher levels of participants in earlier years because they were more confident of funding. Now they can start ramping up as needed again. And one notable trend and concerning trend that Raymond Wood reported to me is that they are coming into contact, and this is probably true at the Sheriff's Office writ large, with people who are using synthetic cannabis and other hallucinogens for which we cannot test. So of course, the premise is in drug court, you're tested regularly, you find out if you're using or not. But there are some things that slip through the cracks. You see on the slide, CRCI, Christian Recovery Centers, Inc. has more than doubled their residential capacity. Thank you. I think some of you attended their grand opening, and that it's very exciting to see that expansion and certainly very needed. Another thing that they've done is they have an initial track called the motivational track at Christian Recovery. And they have added the option of a MAT program during the first 4 weeks someone is there. And the idea is that sometimes people show up, they've spent 3 to 5 days in detox. They're still having physical and mental, emotional, I mean, they're just broken with cravings. And this gives them a little bit of a glide path, to help ease off of that. And the whole idea is that we would like to see the relapse rate, the dropout rate from the program decrease by giving them some assistance that way. All right, also in our backyard, Coastal Horizons. Just to get an idea, they have served 447 clients with SUD disorders in the past 90 days alone. So that's amazing capacity. Schools. So the schools have the 5th grade DARE program. I don't know a lot about it. I'd like to learn more about how long that lasts. Is it 2 days? Is it all year? But that's one thing going on. And then in October, during Substance Use Awareness Month, there is usually some sort of program in the middle or high schools. And our commission member, Josh, brought a couple of teenagers, as in 18 or 19-year-olds, to come and speak about their experience getting trapped in drugs and trying to get off. So that's very good. Commission activities, what have we been doing though since you last heard from us in March? Well, one thing we could take very seriously is this general public outreach and education. So we had the no quota on miracles plague, and some of you came to that. Thank you so much. That was 4 nights. It was well attended. It had a special focus on youth, locally produced and written too. Not on the slide by editing mess up was Encompass training. So Encompass training workshops continued. We have had 9 to date. They range from 10 to 40 people coming to them. Of course, the idea is to encourage people through education and awareness to get their loved ones or themselves into treatment. New this year is this provider training and outreach. So MAT is an important tool for getting over substance use disorder. It only works if you've got providers who will work with the person who's using. And this was an effort to get more people to decide to become substance use MAT providers. And we had 36 healthcare providers come. And we also educated them on other resources so they would know there's a CRCI or Coastal Horizons and everything. And then lastly, we started talking last fall about how can we serve you all in your effort to make wise decisions when it comes to investing the opioid settlement money and other county resources. How can we give you data that's helpful? So one of the first things is, what does the county need? And in order to figure out what the county needs, we decided, some counties have professionals come in and do a needs assessment survey. We decided to do a survey that was very targeted and to try to identify opportunities and gaps in services. So for today's presentation, I'd really like to spend a little time on what we learned from that survey. So again, we had 245 people take it. This is not your go out man on the street, get a big 2, 3, 4, 5,000 person survey. This is Josh going to CRCI, getting people with lived experience, getting the counselors and others to participate, Jeremy going to Coastal Horizons, Johnny going to the ladies she's working with in drug court, Father Bill going to ministers. It was using our spheres of influence to get good input from people who have direct experience working on substance abuse in our county. So one thing that's important to note is we had between 100 and 150 out of that 245 who have lived experience with substance abuse. And a lot of times counties and other places get hit because, well, you just got a bunch of people behind desks. You didn't talk to the real people who've had this problem. Well, not in this survey. In this survey, you're hearing from people who are recovered, peer counselors, but also still dealing with their addiction. So that's going to give you that. The caveat is they've been connected to treatment. So when I'm talking about who have we not heard from, we're not hearing from the people so much in this survey who are not yet connected to treatment. We're not hearing from them, hey, these are the barriers that I face in getting, finding treatment. We're also not hearing from enough on the adolescents, the people who help adolescents, first responders, and foster care kids, their families. People in that sort of social services silo is someplace that we feel like we need stronger representation from. All right. So survey bottom lines. I made it really simple. Invest in prevention, treatment, and recovery. The way this survey was structured, it was to decide, what do you think is the big priority among these 3 avenues? In alignment with opioid settlement dollar spending. And the truth is, all of them, it's pretty evenly divided. The second thing is that the second and third bottom lines have to do with the housing and the transportation. So transportation at every stage, whether it's getting to detox, which is in Wilmington, there's no detox facility in our county, or getting to multiple treatment, therapy, group, medication meetings, or getting to work and home while in recovery. Transportation in this 9th or 10th largest county geographically is tough. And then on housing, people again and again talked about affordable housing at every stage of the process, in treatment, while in recovery, and then needing sober living options once recovery is complete. So some finer points in these categories. When it comes to prevention, it's not surprising. They said the most important thing is to prevent people from getting addicted in the first place. And for that end, they want to see more done in our schools than the 5th grade and then the little seminar that comes once a year for the awareness month. I liked this quote. I think Brunswick County has made great strides in the past 2 years, but the crisis is still escalating. I believe we see a decrease in tobacco usage from education that begins in 1st grade. So the idea is it has worked with tobacco. Maybe we can get some of the same results if we are more thematic through school on drug education. Okay, and in treatment recommendations, what was any particulars there? Well, it was a kind of a mixed message, which I think we have to dig deeper on. They were divided about whether treatment was accessible, affordable, and available. Some people felt that it was, but a whole big chunk felt it wasn't. So we need to find out what's the true story there. And then when asked about ways to improve treatment in North Carolina, provide more options for medical detox, none in the county, create better care and follow-up after a drug overdose. And I think this is interesting because in your FY25, you have a community paramedicine program, which I think that's the whole goal. Once somebody has had an overdose, that there comes people come alongside them and make sure and try to help them get into treatment. Third thing, help improve transportation to and from treatment, and then more inpatient treatment options in our county. Notable comments. So a lovely woman, young woman said, I am trying to find a place for me and my 4-year-old son. He is in foster care and I have to find a place for me and him. So that's probably somebody from Johnny's program. And, you know, what we lack, you know, you can't bring your kid to the recovery program at CRCI. We don't have a lot that helps families stay together. We're pro-family, and so we wanted to be trying to do that. The second one is an interesting niche. MAT programs need to be more accessible and lower in cost for people who don't have insurance and don't qualify for Medicaid. So, and I would add, even if you have the Affordable Health Care Act, if you look at those deductibles, you're not going to, it can be 15, 10, 12, 15,000. So you can't get help from that. People who work and are on these MAT programs also would benefit from help on gas and transportation to groups and therapies. Most working people in these programs don't have the extra money to pay for phone service, internet, gas for groups, and therapy after paying their bills. And then the last comment was, we need more inpatient. We have CRCI, but what about a non-faith-based version? So what are our next steps? Well, our next steps are determined by feedback and comments and information you would share with us. But here's what we have essentially as our next steps at this point. One is to fill in those missing voices from the survey. Have our foster care leaders, have others come and share more with us. Then that whole question of, can you get treatment when you need it? Can you get recovery support when you need it? To get more hard data on that. And then lastly, based on changes in our structure, we will be coming to you quarterly. I promise we'll be briefer. But so we're going to break down a focus every quarter and see if we can drill down and come with some real concrete recommendations for you as you look at some of these things that have been identified as needing more attention. All along, our goal is to know what our county truly needs and give our best thoughts to the commission on how to address those needs. So we welcome any questions or comments. I'm happy to give you anything you need.
Questions, comments?
To say thank you for what you're doing. I mean, this, I said this in meetings before, but when I first got elected, I did not know much about or truly comprehend the magnitude of the mental health issue, and it certainly ties in with substance abuse and opioids and alcoholism. They all tie together and they all affect so many things. So I just thank you for what you're doing, and it's a major issue and it's one we better keep addressing.
I'd like to thank you as well, as somebody in his 38th year of recovery. I appreciate what you do. I work closely with Josh on a regular basis for quite a while now. I truly appreciate what everybody is doing to help this problem. I got two. I have to say, really appreciate it. You know, if you look back a few years ago, we only had John Beth and mine, was 16 guys we had, now 160. And my wife and I have been involved in, interesting enough, just point of disclosure. One of my closest friends was part of the program, Tyler Smith, and then 2 years later, he met my oldest daughter. We fell in love and got married. So anyway, and I do know the aspect of housing. They lived with us 2 years, so I found a home with it. So in other words, it's part of our family too. What you guys are doing is part of what our family has been involved with, and can't say enough about the outstanding work. And it's, we still got a lot of work to go. I mean, you know, we were the #1 death rate as far as prescription drugs just a few years ago. That got turned around because of a lot of efforts by a lot of people. But that doesn't mean that by any stretch of imagination, it's something we've got to keep on working. And you know, it's a tough thing because there's a lot of people who, unfortunately, like in the case of my son-in-law, got injured, got on meds, and just rest from there. And so, but thank you again. Appreciate it.
Okay, what does MAT stand for?
That stands for medication assisted treatment.
Okay. The concern I have is drug treatment court's doing a great job. There's no doubt about that. However, after so many months, do we have any kind of results of people that OD after graduation? Because after they leave, there's not anything for them to come to. They're out of graduation, they're out in the public side, and a lot of them get back on drugs. So is there a program that they can come back to help them stay clean? I don't think that there's a program for that. Am I correct?
It's something that coverage one.
Yeah, but that's, but from what she's been saying here, once they graduate from that, they're out on their own. And how many, what is the OD rate once they get out after graduation? After they graduate, what is the OD rate? Is there,
You
do
know,
we have any figures?
I'm not sure.
He's saying he doesn't.
I don't, at least the convention got her.
so I did get from Raymond Wood some information about relapse rates.
Okay,
And I'm happy to share those.
okay.
But you're better off talking to him because I had to ask a lot of questions even to just understand what it was. But I think our numbers in terms of relapse are, it's a 2-year marker, it's when they check. And again, I think we were doing better than the national one. So, but that's a good deep dive, and we'll be happy to send some information to you just from what we gathered from him.
The other thing, I think there's a facility that's supposed to be coming on 17 that's gonna provide another center for, so that would give our county a little bit more, maybe they'll end up having a detox
Yes.
center for us, which would be very beneficial if that's the case.
Yes,
So we'll have to see what happens there.
right.
Okay, thank you.
Good, sure.
Commissioners, I feel very comfortable.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Any other questions?
Hey, thank you so much for what you're doing, and the commission, thank y'all so much. We really do appreciate it.
Well, absolutely. And I have to say, after 40 years in Washington, DC, coming here and working at the local level, working with people who have made sacrifices in their lives to really make a difference and who get beyond all the rhetoric and the ugliness and just say, let's solve a problem has been extraordinarily inspiring.
I think I have one more question, if you don't mind. My other concern is jobs. It's very hard for them to get a job, and I agree 100% about the transportation. Because if they can't get to their appointments or to their work, they can't function and they just get all upset. What are we doing about jobs, working with businesses to get them jobs? That's another area that needs to be worked on.
It does. And I know just through working with CRCI, they're building apprenticeships, you know, with existing employers, and they are building relationships. So an employer who might normally say, sorry, you know, we don't, I don't want, their confidence is built, you know, they get a Tyler, or they get somebody that they say, wow, this lives are turned around, and they are. So, but more needs to be done. That did show up in the survey, Ms. Sykes, as a problem.
If I may mention, I was having an install down, an install, and the guy was a focus, and he said he'd been for years ago. And then I had a friend of mine that's chief chef at a winery who's done it. And we see guys like this get plugged in because they either come with a certain skill or they get their skill nurtured while they're there. And then they get connected with people that
Yeah.
give them opportunities. So I'm not saying that is perfect all the way around, but there are definitely some success stories.
There definitely are. And one new thing that that is being created is a kitchen cabinet and counter business. CRCI is developing that. And those skills, you know, that's not subsistence living if you get proficient in doing that. And with all the building and stuff, great need for it. So there are good things happening, but it is a barrier.
Commissioner Wing.
When you mentioned the DC, the light bulb went off and reminded me that we talked a while back, right? And I just want to thank you for jumping in head first as soon as you got here and picking an area of passion. And I will say we try to be as different from DC as possible.
Yeah. Very nice. Thank you. Great.
Thank you. Very important.
Good.
All right. Next up is the sheriff's office there, Arrow Program.
Good afternoon again. First off, I just want to say how proud it is to get to see the way that our county works together with everybody, creating second chances for people that are struggling with addiction and making mistakes. It's very humbling, and I'm glad to be a part of this process in this county. So from the Sheriff's Office, we request the Board of Commissioners approve the implementation of the ARROW program at the Brunswick County Sheriff's Office Detention Center, utilizing opioid settlement funds to pay for the program and its 2 positions. The purpose of the ARROW program is to provide treatment interventions for individuals who are confined to the Brunswick County Detention Center and suffer from substance abuse and mental health disorders directly related to opioid use. This will be accomplished by using evidence-based treatment services with the ultimate goal of reducing recidivism and increasing public safety. Acacia joins us here tonight with more on this program, how it functions, and how it will help Brunswick County's many families that suffer due to opioid addiction and or related crimes. Thank you all very much for this.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Acacia Alston, and I'm a dually licensed clinician in the state of North Carolina. I'm licensed as a clinical social worker and a clinical addiction specialist. And again, I'm here to talk about the ARROW program. And the ARROW program stands for Addiction Response and Rediscovering One's Worth. Again, this is an evidence-based substance use program intended to operate within the detention center. So the sheriff's office is seeking financial support from the opioid settlement funds that have been awarded to Brunswick County to support the ARROW program. These funds are used to support programs that serve individuals with opioid use disorder and co-occurring substance use disorder or a mental health condition. Under the North Carolina Memorandum of Agreement, there have been 12 high-impact opioid strategies that have been identified from the National Settlement Agreement. The ARROW program is asking for funds under Strategy 3, which is Recovery Support Services. And this would allow the sheriff's office to fund an evidence-based recovery support service in the detention center to support inmates in accessing addiction treatment to improve their well-being. This slide talks about the need for the ARROW program. We did just briefly touch upon Treatment Court and the Anchor Initiative in the last presentation. And Brunswick County has done a great job at offering substance use services to our community through both of those programs. So Treatment Court is for individuals who have criminal cases that have been handled and then ordered into the Treatment Court program. Anchor Initiative can assist individuals in the community that may or may not have any legal charges. And although the Anchor program does operate within the detention center, there are more times than not that the individual doesn't qualify just due to the nature of their charges or the level of offender status that they are. So essentially, the ARROW program would close that gap and offer services for those that are waiting for their criminal cases to be handled in the detention center that normally wouldn't have any access to treatment. And this is just some statistics that I thought were important to touch upon. Drug overdose is the leading cause of death among people who have been recently incarcerated, and they have a 10 times more likelihood of overdosing than the general public. And the Brunswick County Sheriff's Office overdose statistics since 2019, there has been 668 individuals that have overdosed, and 47 of those individuals have passed away due to the overdose. Again, these statistics are only reflecting on the sheriff's office numbers. This doesn't reflect the local police departments in Brunswick County. This slide talks about the operation of the ARROW program. And the program is intended for each participant to be in it for 90 days. The individual can participate in the program voluntarily, or they can be referred. It's a very informal referral, and it can come from anyone from an attorney, a judge, a probation officer, a DSS worker, or
I'm sorry, did you say this program is a 90-day?
Yes, intended for 90 days, yes, ma'am. Or detention officers that are in the facility. After that, an eligibility screening will need to be conducted. This will be conducted by the program coordinator. And the program coordinator will be using 3 evidence-based screening tools. The first tool is the Texas Christian University Drug Screen with the opioid addendum. This will screen for substance use and alcohol use. The second tool will be a correctional mental health screens for women and men. This will screen for mental health. And the third tool will be the PTSD checklist version, and this will screen for trauma. If the individual meets criteria based off of the eligibility screening, a clinical assessment will be conducted using the comprehensive clinical assessment tool, and this will be done by the program coordinator as well. A CCA is an intensive clinical and functional evaluation of an individual presenting with either mental health or substance use conditions, and this will result in a clinical summary written report providing either a mental health and or substance use disorder diagnosis. Once that assessment is done, a treatment plan will be developed in consultation with the participant and Coastal Horizons to determine the best course of treatment. Once the participant is enrolled into the program, they will receive moral recognition therapy. And this will happen twice a week. And this will again be with a Coastal Horizons clinician. This is a cognitive behavioral intervention, and it's used to reduce the risk for criminal recidivism. The participant will also receive one individual counseling session per month from a Coastal Horizons clinician. And then there will also be mental health services that are offered. The first will be a psychiatric evaluation via telehealth, again with a Coastal Horizons employee. And this will be able to help determine an individual's mental state. And then also the second mental health treatment will be eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy. And this will be offered from a licensed therapist. And this is for individuals who want to address their trauma.
Can I ask?
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
what, I don't understand eye movement desensitization, what is it?
It's EMDR. It's a type of therapy for trauma survivors. A lot of survivors either have a diagnosis of PTSD or some sort of trauma, and you have to be specialized in it. It's a certification that you have to go through. Not just a normal therapist can use that therapy. You have to go through, I don't know how long the course is, but it's an additional course that a therapist has to take in order to be certified and provide EMDR services.
What are they looking? Rapid eye movement?
It is, yeah, yep. Essentially what it does, this is like in layman's terms, essentially when someone goes through a traumatic event, your trauma is stored in the wrong part of your brain where you can't process it. And EMDR, with the eye movement process that they use, it can take the trauma. I know this kind of sounds funny, but it essentially moves the trauma like out of the part of your brain where you can't really process it and into a part of your brain where you can process it. Is kind of like the easiest way to put it. It's really effective. Yeah.
Thank you.
Lastly, the program coordinator will develop a transition plan with the participant for reentry into the community. This is where anchor program will come into play. So the anchor program will assist the individual getting into either inpatient or transitional living and will set placement up upon release. Let's say the individual doesn't want the structured environment and wants to go back into their house or into the community. They can continue services with Coastal Horizons at the Shiloh location, or they can go to the Wilmington location if that's, easier for them. This slide just talks about the two positions that are needed in order to operate the ARROW program successfully in the detention center. The first position is the program coordinator, who will be responsible for overseeing the entirety of the program. This includes keeping records of participants in the program, responding to correspondence from community agencies, families, public inquiries, also assisting with the development of the budget and operating plans regarding funding. This position is really crucial to the ARROW program because they're going to act as the liaison between the detention center, the sheriff's office, the contractors, the research partners. And this position, again, will be responsible for conducting the eligibility screening, the comprehensive clinical assessment, and the transition plan with the program participants. The second position that is being asked for is the jailer. This position will be responsible for maintaining the movement of all inmates, including programming and their daily functions. He or she will provide security during the MRT group sessions and assist in controlling any combative participants while in the ARROW program. And the last slide just breaks down the budget. And in the budget, we're asking for personnel. Again, these are the two positions that I just explained in the last slide. The second part of the budget are the contracted services, again, which are Coastal Horizons and then Monumental Foundations. Coastal Horizons will be providing the MRT, individual counseling, and the psychiatric evaluation. And Monumental Foundations will be providing the trauma therapy, which is the EMDR. The third part of the budget is the external program evaluation, which essentially this will just be a process and outcome evaluation of the ARROW program, and it will be conducted by a doctorate level professor. The purpose of the evaluation is to determine the effectiveness of the program and understand why it may or may not be working. This will also help help us assist in any program adjustments if there needs to be like any tweaks. The next part of the budget is the software. And the software that needs to be purchased is an electronic medical record, also known as an EMR. This will be needed so we can store the participant information and to meet HIPAA compliance requirements. The equipment is going to be for the jailer position, their uniform, their protective gear, and the laptop. And then lastly is the incentives. And the incentives are for the participants. And this is to help with program engagement. So commissary items will be purchased. And after each month of successfully complying, they will be able to select various commissary items. That's it. Do you have any questions or comments?
Questions?
Couple, first of all, I think in general, the idea sounds really good, as far as that's something that's attacking the cause, not just attacking the symptom. I think
Right.
that's, really, mental health, we need to get beyond just treating symptoms. And that's certainly not my area of expertise. I just said everything I know about that, so I'll stop there with that. You answered one of my questions, which was transition, for someone when they come out, you already answered that, but
Right.
two other questions. One, do we know of any similar programs to this and how effective they've been? And then secondly, you mentioned it's a 90-day program. If somebody's incarcerated for 45 days and they transition out in the middle of that, how would that transition work?
Okay, so there is another program in Pitt County that they are offering services in the jail. And that's actually initially where we kind of got this idea from, offering services in the jail. And they have been really successful. Their program has grown. I would say they started off with a few inmates in their program, and now they have a ton of different contractors coming out. Some people come in and even peer certify the participants in the program. So their program has been really successful. And then your second question, if someone is been in there for 45 days and then needs.
Halfway through the 90-day program, they get released. How does that?
Yeah, so I think our main goal is obviously to get someone services that doesn't have access to them. So we really are looking for people that are going to be in a detention center for 90 days. Not to say that we couldn't help someone for 45 days, because we definitely could. And essentially it would be the same kind of a plan as there would be a transition plan. If, let's just say, their charges got handled before we thought that they were going to, they're out, 45 days earlier than program completion. Again, we'll still do a transition plan, because at the end of the day, we're going to want them to transition into a structured environment and not just let them go out.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Very good. Other questions?
Yeah. Good questions here, Leighton. My concern is probably on the same way as Commissioner Williams, the 90 days. When somebody comes into the jail, a lot of times they bond out.
Mhm.
So the other thing, if they're going to be in there 90 days, it looks like the drug treatment court would be their first avenue. So it looks like we're forming another business inside of the jail. You see what I'm saying? Because we're contracting with Coastal Horizon. We have Brunswick Christian Recovery. We've got our other services that we're using in the county. I don't know that this is going to work. I'm not saying it can't, but I don't know how many people stay 90 days. I just think it's, are we overcrowded in our jail? Are we putting more work on our detention officers? I know it's not in their job description, but we're gonna hire 2 just coordinators. They're not gonna be part of the detention center. I'm not cut on this yet. I would like to hear more,
Okay.
to learn more about it. I'd like to have some statistics from Pitt County, if Pitt County's doing this. I have a lot of other questions, and I'll be glad to type this up and
Okay.
provide them to y'all.
Okay.
Other questions?
Well, I have to tell you that I would think that it's been vetted to a certain degree before it got to us, but I have to tell you that, well, forgive me, but I was in Chapel Hill about 6, 8 months ago.
We forgive you.
I know, I had to go there, so. And I talked to them about CRCI, and I was talking to them about the, anchor initiative, and they said, we need to call the sheriff's office, because we're scared that whoever calls is gonna be put in jail. I said, isn't it interesting, in our county, we try to help. You're scared to death of the police, you're scared to death of them, because they're gonna put you in jail. With us, we try to get you off drugs. Interesting paradigm.
Yep.
So my point being is, there's a lot of different niches that it takes to be able to cover this. And there are people, there are gaps where people get left out. So we're trying to do everything we can to try to ensure these individuals have a fighting chance to get back on their feet.
Right.
And all of us, to a certain degree, I guess, experienced, addiction in their families or something. And if we can get those people off of these types of things, man, it's almost invaluable, really. So, Sheriff's going to say, anybody has some information.
I can answer the one question about the 90 days. We have Anchor that can pick it up, so we have, we can start the program. If they get out early, that's great. We have the Anchor that can pick up that and continue on with what we're trying to do. But what we want to have to get those statistics from Pitt County and answer the questions, guys. I can answer that one, so I want to make sure.
When do you envision this program starting?
I could see it starting July 1st.
And I'm assuming that the first 90 days, there would be some type of report evaluation that would come out, that would give us.
Yeah, and that would be with the external program evaluation.
And so that I'm clear on all of this, that this is totally being paid for through the summer.
Yes, sir.
Right?
I guess follow-up question, this is more for the sheriff, but what percentage of your inmates are repeat visitors who might not be repeat visitors if they could kick their habit?
I think if we save even one or two, it's well worth it for the attention. I don't have that statistic about the recidivism, but I mean,
Probably.
yes, it does happen a lot. So anything that we can do to help with that, and addiction and mental health are a main crux in our detention center. And, we're just trying to come with creative ways to deal with it. And it's unfortunate because a lot of those people shouldn't be in it, but unfortunately they're there. So if we can do anything to help them, we're there.
I will, I can.
Example I'll give, if you don't mind, I knew a guy who's a successful business owner in another jurisdiction that wound up here in Brunswick County and wound up in our jail because he was stealing car parts to buy drugs. And this was somebody who got hooked on it because of a surgery. And, that's somebody who otherwise, successful person, but wound up in there, probably would have kept coming back, except they think they were forced to get treatment.
And that's, that goes to my point when I first walked up, I mentioned about second chances. We have no idea the quality and what we have in this county that's hidden because of addiction.
Right.
So if we can do anything to offer them a second chance and get them to be productive citizens in the county, I'm all for that, but everybody else is.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, Mr. Coleridge is here, but what's the success rate a year out? Because I knew a figure of 17%.
2022 graduates and 2023 check-in 365 after their completion, 78%, still in stable housing, still abstinent from illicit drugs and alcohol, still gainfully employed or receiving steady income.
And I'll tell you that the amazing thing is, as you get to know these guys, they're phenomenal people because they had a second chance at life. And let me tell you, I got the greatest son-in-law in the world. I gotta tell you, he's great. So, yes,
Okay.
There's several other things. Yes, the money's coming from the opioid, settlement, but however, it's a recurring
Yes, ma'am.
expense. And anytime you do a recurring expense, once that money's gone, we're stuck. And that, if you look at across the state and other counties where they have used funding that's reoccurring, they're in financial situation. And I don't want to charge taxpayers when we've got Christian Recovery, we got the Healing Place, we've got other programs, the Anchor program, we got the Drug Treatment Court. I just think that this is adding more that we don't actually need. I think, and to me, we're hiring Coastal Horizon to do the whole program, is what it looks like
No.
at this point.
Not necessarily, no. The program coordinator is actually going to do the eligibility screening, the comprehensive clinical assessment, and the transition plan. Those are all three things that Coastal Horizons could do, but they're not going to do because the program coordinator is qualified to do those.
This program, first off, Ms. Austin, you've done an excellent job.
Thank you.
of presenting this, which is challenging at best.
Yeah.
But the program coordinator,
Mhm.
will that person hold some of the same certifications that you hold?
Yes, sir. They will be a licensed clinical social worker.
Okay, so they will hold
Yes.
certifications.
Mhm. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, if I could add here, we have been measuring and metering, our settlement funding, and we don't intend to recommend programs to you that we could not continue through the duration of settlement funding. So it could need county money in the future, but it would be 15 or 16 years in the future.
And there are also funds that are available through the federal government grant funding, especially if a grant, the federal government sees that there's a successful program, they're gonna want to fund that and help out where they can, if need be. Mhm.
I'd also be interested to know, if it keeps these people from coming back to the jail, what the savings are.
Right, and I also, because I'm in the detention center right now, and I assess individuals with substance use disorder every single day. And I will say the repeat offenders, I would say most of the time, I don't really get someone that comes in, this is my first time in this jail. Most of the time, it's at least 5, 6 times. This is my 8th time in here for the same substance use disorder, so.
Mr. Forte, you have,
I haven't missed a drug court graduation since 2016. I have been the keynote speaker at it numerous times, and I work with Judge Disbrook, constantly about this. And they're not gonna keep the way they do it in the court system. If you're only gonna get a 30 or 60-day sentence, that's when you go to drug court. Because that's extended over months. And that's your option. You can go spend 30 or 60 days in jail, or you can go to drug court and see if we can't help you out. So the issue about when they get released halfway through really shouldn't apply. I'm sure it does once in a blue moon, but it really shouldn't apply. As far as, like I said, I've worked with Christian recovery centers for years with Josh and his amazing team. I've seen the work that Coastal Horizons does. I've been very involved in this. Over the last 5 years, I had very niece and their nephew through addiction. I went through it myself for a couple of years. I think anything and everything that we could do, and I was going to also bring up that the opioid money, the settlement money is 16 years, I believe. Okay, so if that's a problem funding it, that's, none of us will be here at 16.
Just one.
Just one. I am 100% for this. Anything that we could do to help anyone. Guy comes into jail, he's been in and out, and if she could assess him or somebody else could assess them, and they could, a program coordinator could come up with a plan and get them off the drugs, they won't be in and out of our detention center anymore. I've seen it thousands of times. I know so many people that have gotten clean because they've gotten that second, third, fourth chance. And I'll never give up on someone. You say, you want to throw your hands up and say, oh, the heck with it. They don't want to help themselves. But you gotta keep trying. Otherwise, they're gonna live in our detention center. They'll be here every month.
There's DSS and there's courts and there's all these other buildings we gotta deal with also.
Right, I mean, there are so many things. I'll tell you what, I'll move to approve the implementation of the Arrow program and to
Would you,
the sheriff detention center. You utilizing the settlement funds, if it doesn't pass, it doesn't pass, but I'm 100% for the second.
Okay, so I've got a motion this second, so discussion.
I would like to wait until I get some statistics from Pitt County. Because if Pitt's the only jail that's ever done this, is there any more jails or detention centers? There's not any, is there, in North Carolina?
I don't know of any other in North Carolina, but that's just only because I've done the research at Pitt County. I'm sure there are other detention centers.
No.
There's 100.
This is the first time I've heard of the Arrow program altogether, so,
There's
I tried to check
Mhm.
and try to find
Mhm,
who else had.
mhm.
If Pitt County is the only one, I would love to see the statistics, and if there is any other, before we vote on it.
Okay, well, there's a motion on the floor, a second.
That's a weird question to the manager. I guess if the major question before us, whether or not to include this in the budget we vote on in a couple of weeks.
We do not have an action item for approval tonight. This was a presentation to show you about the program. We can bring it back on the 17th for actual.
Why does this say,
Approval.
is your agenda? Okay, request the board of commissioners approve the implementation of the Arrow program at the Brunswick County Sheriff's Office detention.
It's not a presentation, so,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's approval.
But it does say approval.
but we don't even have salaries, what the salaries are, and how much the software costs.
The budget is in the attachments.
I don't have it.
There is.
This was intended to be conceptual, but we can bring you back an actual budget for it at your next meeting to approve a specific.
All right,
program funding.
so go back to the motion.
I'll rescind the motion, hope to bring it back in 2 weeks.
You can do a conceptual approval. I just want to make sure you're aware. We would bring something else sort of for you to ratify the program and the budget for it. But you can still proceed with your motion.
I'll bring it back.
As long as it's on the next agenda.
Yeah, I'll offer a motion to specifically table it to the next meeting so that it's on that agenda.
And that's fine.
Okay, all in favor?
I do have one other thing to say.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I would like to say that since we do have this much money in the opioid thing, is there any way to take some of that money for transportation? Can y'all look into that and come back with us and let us know? Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Very good presentation. Thank you.
Before we move on, we heard from the Substance Abuse Commission earlier. I know we modified their bylaws a couple of weeks ago. What is our timeline and process for appointing the new positions we added to that entity?
July 1.
We'll have to get back to you on that.
Yeah, I would think it's just a matter of, at some point, posting applications and turning it forward. As far as the actual changes themselves, they were effective.
We'll get some sort of an announcement out of what positions we need to fill so that we can have people apply for those. Thank you.
All right, so next up is a public hearing and on our budget, so Mr. Manager.
It's basically you can open the floor for public input on the budget.
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and open the floor for the public hearing, and I have one person that signed up, Tyler Newman. He'll come forward.
Good afternoon. My name is Tyler Newman. On behalf of Business Alliance for a Sound Economy and the regional business community, we would like to provide comments and continue to express concerns about the proposed system development fee issue. As noted in our May 2023 submission, We continue to believe that the SDF analysis, even after revision, is proposing grossly excessive maximum allowable water and wastewater SDFs. In addition to the factual inadequacies and potential legal issues, the fees, if adopted as proposed, even in phases, will negatively impact Brunswick County. In prior communications with the commissioners and staff, we encourage Brunswick County to seek a second opinion and engage a different consultant when recalculating and revising the SDF study. Unfortunately, the county elected to continue its engagement with the prior consultant, and thus the same concerns remain. While the water per gallon calculation has dropped, the wastewater per gallon calculation has increased. The principal reason for this discrepancy appears to be the continued inclusion of rehab projects misidentified as capacity projects. For one example, as noted in our prior letter, the Ocean Isle Beach wastewater treatment plant expansion is 93% attributable to new growth, according to the SDF report, but was publicly advertised by the county as a rehab project. How can existing pump station upgrades be 100% attributable to new growth? Interestingly, one area which was changed between the two studies is the entire $168 million cost of the new RO plant, which is no longer 100% attributable to new growth and is only 30% attributable to new growth. Before attempting to incorporate these fees into the 24-25 budget process, we implore you to get a second opinion from an outside consultant that can more reasonably determine potential SDFs. Utilities have two sources of revenue: user rates and development fees. While politically palatable, a local government can't cap user rates and burden new growth with all rehab, maintenance, and new capacity costs for a legacy system. Brunswick has seen healthy growth over the past several years, and those new users and customers should have been paying fees towards maintenance, expanding capacity, and future infrastructure. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, that's all I had signed up for the public hearing, so close the public hearing.
Chairman Thompson, I draw your attention to make sure that there were 3 public comments that were submitted via email and in the packets.
Okay, in the pack. Very good. Thank you.
Should those be included in the minutes of the meeting?
They should.
They were
Very good. All right. And, all right, so that concludes the public hearing. We will move into the administrative report, and we're looking at information technology. And, for the, ag block law multi-use bill technology reasons. And Mr. Manager, who you gonna?
I'll cover this and tell you it is in here. If you need further feedback on it, this is the technology for the multi-purpose building, budget movements go with it, and the security technology piece of it. Last year, the board previously authorized NC Sound as the sole provider for our security technology. So that is cross-referenced in this agenda item. And it's really an expansion of our existing security system. That's the door swipes and whatnot security, and it's just extending it to another building. And it's not a new sole source, it's a continuation of the existing one.
Okay, all right, any questions? Anybody?
Not anymore, it's just answered.
Yeah. All right, so do I hear a motion?
Well, I guess I'll make some comments. I'm not, supportive of the sole source. I think we need to get bids when we're doing these jobs. I think we need to have 3 bids. We constantly, my understanding is, NC Sound is done, the sheriff's office, 911, the detention center, the courthouse, and I don't know what else. And we're just continuing to go with sole source. I don't think we should do that. I think we need a diverse look at everything, and we're just going with one company that's making all the decisions.
So would multiple companies have access to the same software for entry and exit?
anybody can buy something.
Mr. Chairman, now, I'm sure could probably answer this, but I think what I can understand, or maybe what the manager's deferring, is that this is just a continuation, what we're having certainly in one building to another. So that's, it's like the sole source perspective, making sure you have continuity of operation versus a hodgepodge of vendors that one part may break down and it's a he said, she said type of thing. I may be wrong in that perspective, but my thinking is that's the rationale behind it. We're trying to just continue this so that we have a comprehensive estimate. So the entire system works as one unit, be it building or site or whatever. Somebody can elucidate this. Shoot, I mean, do you want to expand upon that or?
You're absolutely.
Mr. Chairman, while she's coming up, I will just add, when the board authorized NC Sound for sole source, they only did it for security systems and related items. They have, other items legal out for it. And they have been awarded contracts on other items, but those have been properly bid out.
Okay.
What do you mean by related items? You said security systems and related items.
So.
Yeah.
So
I can
anything,
hear you.
okay, super. So anything that ties into that system, that would basically, keeping it all encompassed in one particular, infrastructure setup. So if we, I'm sorry?
Unified perspective.
Yes, thank you for that. That's a great way to put it. But the system was put in place, and Andy Byron is here with me because he has more history on this than I do. But the system was put in place when the courthouse was established, correct?
That's correct.
So that's where it initiated. And from that, we have extended that into other new facilities like the building that we just put in place for the AOC staff, the modular building. So that was an extension of that existing system. We wanted to continue with that standardization and compatibility. If we brought other vendors in, then the chances of voiding the warranties that we have already established with NC Sound are possible. To bring another vendor in, we would have to put additional infrastructure in place to accommodate that vendor. So that would be additional costs for the county, and that is something that we would want to avoid. As Mr. Batten said, we have in other instances where security is not a factor, we have gone out for additional bids for 3 quotes. There have been times when NC Sound has been awarded those bids because they were the low cost, but then there have been other times when they have not been awarded those bids as well. So we do due diligence, and I do believe that we are good stewards of county funding, and we want to get the best in place for the county as it is feasible to do so.
What's the track record of the history of performance? Is it good?
I think so.
And I will say that with NC Sound, that they have been very supportive and responsive to our needs. When we have called upon them, they have responded as quickly as we could expect a vendor to respond. So we've been very pleased, not just with the product, but also with the maintenance and support.
This is all about entry and exit of the building and security.
Security cameras, the door access, the panic button system, the duress system. So it's all encompassing.
Second.
The motion and a second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed? Very good.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
All right, let's go to board appointments, and I'll go ahead and start off with the District 1 Planning Board appointment, and I'll put up Cliff Chief.
I'll second.
Motion and second, all in favor? Aye. And there's an at-large planning board from the others. Obviously, there's an at-large appointment for citizen. Do I have
I make a motion to put Alan Britton in that position.
I'll second.
On the motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, are there any others? No, we have to say that.
Not that we have today, that's.
All right, so that's, it's got that. Is there any other business to bring forward? Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to say that we appreciate the service of, the deputy manager, thank you, Greg, he has served with us with distinction for 3 years now, if I'm not mistaken. Thank you.
Happy anniversary. Well,
Guys.
2 more years and somebody up here will be signing a certificate for you. Like we did for Megan this morning.
Yeah.
So.
5 years.
5 years, congratulations.
Congratulations.
So we've, yeah, so you got something to look forward to.
We'll go buy one of those.
Yeah, as long, I guess, as long as they keep making the mails. More years.
Mr. Chairman, I have one item. I forwarded a request from the town of Leland for a letter of support on something, and I sent some additional information from them today. And, I don't necessarily have to get the response on that now, I just want to make sure it's on the radar. If staff can look into the information I sent, I know you'll have to have a chance to review it again.
Yeah, y'all can come back to us on that.
I actually spoke to Leland's public safety director about that matter before. Share that conversation with you later today.
Sounds good.
I have one. Back in September, we had approved broadcasting our meetings. And we were told, all of this was going to be gone, we were going to have cameras up here and a better system, this Mickey Mouse thing, that never really does follow anybody's voice.
Cyclops.
Yes. Do we have any ETA on when we're going to get around to doing this?
If I can ask a related question, so they can answer like once. I know we currently stream them, but do not post the recordings. Is there any ETA on changing that as well?
I believe we have started archiving the recordings and they're available as a. This meeting's. But they are being recorded.
Yeah, I mentioned it this morning during budget that we needed this corrected first.
Hello again. So to address your question on replacing the Mickey Mouse system, we did have a release for an RFP that closed on May 17th. We have received 5 responses from qualified bidders. We are doing an internal assessment of those bids that have been received, and then we will elevate that to county leadership for their input, and from that, we'll make a decision and a selection and present you with what the recommendation is for you.
Questions are not already in the book, because you got extra large in the back there, the plug in. So I hope that's going to be taken into consideration.
Yes.
Good.
Yes. And then the additional question was about
The archiving.
archiving, yes.
Sounds like that's.
It is underway. So as of last meeting, we recorded that session. We also are recording this session today, and we just have to coordinate with communications on where we want the landing spot to be for those recordings.
Thank you.
Very good. All right.
I just wanted to, I didn't even notice it when I walked in, but the wall has been updated.
Yeah, just, so, very good.
Looks nice.
Does look nice. Anything else? Motion?
So then we adjourn.
Aye.